Don't ask me what you know is true.
And there it is, your number one song in Triple J's hottest 100 of Australian songs. More than 2.6 million votes cast, a massive celebration of the tunes you love, all from our own backyard, Luce.
And joining us to celebrate this huge moment, founding member and drummer of INXS, Jon Farriss. Jon, congratulations.
Wow. I mean, I had no idea. I'm very put on the spot. I had no idea. Well, thank you, everybody. That's incredible.
How are you?
You think wow.
I can see you're shocked. How do you feel knowing that Australia voted Never Tear Us Apart as their number one song in the hottest 100 of Australian songs?
My God. How do I feel? I feel so overwhelmed, actually. Wow, I feel emotional, frankly, because you think about the history of Triple J. Well, we were with Double J when it was AM radio, doing, all sorts of little pub gigs around Australia. And, Double J were such a huge part of helping us get into the radio space, recording live gigs and that sort of thing. And then, of course, FM came to Australia, and then it went to Triple J, and just, I'm overwhelmed. I mean, that's absolutely brilliant. Love you guys. Thank you so much.
Jon, hearing it just play out there, it is such an iconic song. It begins with strings. It takes on that amazing spaghetti western turn. Of course, the iconic drums kicking into that amazing sax solo from Kirk. When you were recording it, did it feel like an epic from day one?
No, we never forecast or projected anything onto the future of our music, because that wasn't why we did it, but the litmus test for us was, if we loved it, then surely if 6 people can all agree to like something, it's the odds are that someone else out there, the majority of people would like it. So that was usually how we figured stuff out.
6 people agreed, and then the nation agreed. Number one song, Never Tear Us Apart.
Right.
Can you actually take us back there, Jon? What do you remember about the making of this song?
Well, this album, Kick, the record it was recorded onto, was, a very important record, because we just started to gain some major traction in other countries around the world. We'd had some hits here and there. So it was just sort of, everything was just there, poised. And so the Kick album, we went to write that, and Andrew and Michael decided, look, just leave the songwriting up to Michael and Andrew for this album. It seems to work. Let's just all put our, egos aside and let the songwriters, just create and carve out these great tunes, and just trust these guys, So there was a pool of songs, and Never Tear Us Apart was one of the ones that we loved a lot. The process was very organic, and it was really exciting. It was just awesome. I mean, we were young. I was young. I was 24 or something, So, I mean, I joined the band when I was 15. So at this point, I'd already been in 10 years, which seemed like forever, but everything was just poised and ready. So when we released Kick, the rest was history, pretty much.
There are so many isolated elements in this song, right? Where I'm imagining right now people singing the sax solo, someone doing your iconic drum fill. There was that emphasis on the songwriting, but how did you go putting all of those elements together and making it still sound so neat, so realized?
Yeah, we were very, very, cautious with how we put things together. We were big fans of some very, very seriously amazing artists, and some really beautiful albums that we'd all had that were inspirations to us. And you see that you got to realize that in the 70s, the bands that the INXS guys were listening to it were bands like Steely Dan and all these kinds of bands that were very specifically technical about recording techniques and that sort of thing. So we wanted to make a masterpiece for ourselves that we could be proud of. And Chris Thomas, who was the producer, had done the Beatles' White Album with George Martin, Pretenders, Sex Pistols, the list goes, Elton John. I mean, so he was there in the studio with us, and he was the one kind of making sure that we got our heads out of the pub scene type mentality, but still had that larrikinish sort of element to us. But we were able to integrate a little bit more world-class sort of, thought process with how we approach the recording. So we were very, very critical about everything we were doing, but at the same time trying to have fun. So, which we did.
It's an amazing record. John, I have to tell you that INXS Kick was the first record I ever bought with my own pocket money. I saved up eight weeks to buy it on vinyl at Brash's, which totally ages me.
Brash's!
But
Bless you.
It was such a huge record, and I'm not alone. Obviously, it was a massive hit. You sold millions and millions of copies. When you play this song live, when you've played it live over many, many decades, what do you see in front of you? How are the crowds reacting when you start up Never Tear Us Apart?
Being a rock band, that had just an enormous rock sort of history, it turns out that the one of the flagship songs for INXS's catalog is kind of a ballad. We never knew that would be the case, but it's just great that to watch how the dynamics of the world and the audiences are the most important part of the whole music scene. Because they're the ones who are directing what they like and what they don't like. So thank you so much for everyone out there who has loved that song as much as we have.
Yeah. It's taken on a huge legacy. It's become the theme for Port Adelaide footy games. It's been featured in Euphoria, more recently the film Baby Girl. I think above all, though, it is a song that has a huge meaning in some of the biggest moments of people's everyday lives. How do you look back on the legacy of this song?
I'm just so blessed to be able to be amongst such beautiful people, my brothers, just to think that little kids growing up in Perth are watching the Beatles on television if we were lucky. I mean, we dreamed of doing it, but we never really thought, being that far and isolated in Western Australia, that anything would come of it. Never really. It was just that we loved music so much, that we just lived and breathed it. And it seemed to be infectious for the people we were around. So they liked it as well. And look, I just feel very blessed and just so grateful,
And now, all these years later, you are soundtracking more special moments. People will remember this forever. You've just made memories in the last 3 minutes. The biggest, how does it feel to know you just soundtracked the biggest arms around each other sing-along across the nation? The globe.
I'm in shock, actually. Yeah, I'm completely in shock. Look, I knew we wrote some nice stuff, we also did some stuff that wasn't that great. I mean, it wasn't always fantastic, but to think that after all, gosh, the grueling touring that we did, the years of not seeing kids and partners and not seeing my parents who moved on, and, it's like everyone paid the price for that. It wasn't just us, there was a lot of hard times, but that's life, and that is reflected equally with all the good stuff,
Jon, thank you so much for joining us on this huge day. Congratulations. INXS, Never Tear Us Apart. You're #1 in the hottest 100 of Australian songs. Congratulations, Jon. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's amazing. I love you all. Thank you so much.
Triple